Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm sorry to cut off the conversations again, but we're going to bring our captains back on stage here. And if anybody is at a table that doesn't seem to have a conversation going, we're going to try to move you to somewhere where people are so that you can talk. And we're bringing the captains back on stage right now to summarize those conversations. Make sure I get everybody here. Okay, I think I've invited everybody up, so go ahead and we'll go ahead and let's go backwards this time. I'll start with, since right now what I see is Jerry, Jury, and Miranda. And there's Roland. So I think everybody's coming up. Where's Eric? Invited him. There we go. So let's start with Roland this time. What you were talking about was land use and zoning, and since you segued so well to that question, we'll go ahead and start with you if you could summarize what your table talked about.
Thank you. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, right? So what we talked about was, and this is something that's very important, I noticed that as well. I mean, when I was trying to get signs for my office space in Temple Terrace, I saw how diligent and restrictive they can be, and getting signs in Tampa is a lot easier. And so one of the things that Mary Ann brought up is that maybe we need to have a more cohesive sign code, because the Uptown Innovation District goes across Temple Terrace, Hillsborough County, and the city of Tampa, which all have different sign codes. And so having a more cohesive sign code would definitely go a long way in helping the innovation district. Another thing that we discussed was the overlay zoning district. I'm not quite sure what that is, but what it sounded like it was is having a uniform or zoning that can happen across different jurisdictions to help the design standards. So the way it sounded like to me is that each individual county or entity can have their own, I guess, zoning rules, but this overlay would kind of go across all three, since it's all going to be for Uptown. We want to make sure that we create opportunities for mixed use and affordable housing, particularly since student housing is very prevalent because of USF. You want students to be able to live in any area of Uptown and still be able to afford to live there and go to school. Just making sure that we have consistency across all of the jurisdictions. Those are the major things that we discussed.
Great. Thank you, Roland. We'll move over to Miranda.
First and foremost, I have to say that I'm at a table with some very smart people. Our table has a lot of good synergy going on, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to express this as eloquently. We have Tim Givens, we have Terry and Steve Willingham, Ron Weaver, who his talking is like a singing bird. So, and Brandon Mead. But we had a lot of conversation about an image of a unified vision, a cohesive zoning plan. So we too use the word that Roland used, the cohesive part of that, a visual plan to follow that will sell people into investing in the area. So having kind of that master plan, West River community was brought up as having a master plan with a buy-in. The appearance is the first impression, so a foundation of, the color, the graphic, what type of feel do we want the community to have, the architecture, the landscape, making those decisions and being consistent with that. We talked about a collaboration with the city on discussions of what the community should look like. Terry brought up the East Ship Summit by the Kauffman Foundation in our conversation. And then Ron Weaver, the bonus, well, he talked about retail, art, urban feel, incentivizing for grants that create commercial. And then he talked about private pocket parks in our conversation that emphasizes on safety, streetscape, again, the zoning, but the bonus and the incentives were a big thing that he talked about.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for bringing, thank you everybody at that table for your input. Jerry?
Yes, our table had a lot packed into our 5-minute conversation. And what it included was we talked about historically in the University Uptown District that it has been zoned. Originally, it was redlined and it was zoned not to benefit organizations to even be engaged in the area. So the zoning in itself, it was redlined in the area itself, as far as even capital and institutions even being able to have an opportunity to have a business in the Uptown District. There was a lot of areas that large institutions, financial institutions, developers were not able to really develop in the area as well. And in order for the Uptown District to thrive, we have to think about more rezoning the area and special incentives like those that happen in downtown Tampa, as downtown Tampa was redeveloping as well. And to create a structure that was more in the area for the district to be able to thrive, so that it would be easier for developers to come into the area. Right now in Hillsborough County in Tampa, it takes 6 months to 2 years for a developer to be able to get the permits and the things needed in order to be able to develop within the area as well. Then Mark had also indicated, I have Mark Sharp on our in our discussion table as well, and discussing doubling the size of the board at IP and really making that concerted effort to include African American and minority businesses and developers in the developing and of the innovation Uptown District in the beginning, so that they have more of an input as well. And as well as lobbying for special incentives and tax credits for the district in order for it to continue to thrive.
Great. Thank you. Eric?
I thought you were going to take Sherry next. I had a great table discussion again, as Roland mentioned, regarding overlay districts. Rebecca brought that up. That is one of the quickest ways that gives a uniform zoning that would, for new development coming in, to say in the future you have to develop to this standard, we want this look, and that is the low-hanging fruit. Mickey brought up many good points about the financial incentives, keeping the small businesses, because that's really the backbone of America is the small business. That's the job generator. That's the wealth generator. That is that American dream, to own your own business, and making sure that we have incentives available, that we, take them into account when we do this, and then making it not overly difficult to meet some of the newer standards in that. But I don't know. I mean, it's too bad you can't bring Mickey or Rebecca up. They say it so much better yet again, but that was about it.
What we might do at the end of this, I'm not sure what the limit is for the stage, but we might just at the end of this, instead of going back to tables, maybe we, just bring everybody on stage and try to have an open
200 people.
All there, yeah.
You can put 200 on stage. So,
all right, let's go ahead and hear from. Let's go ahead and hear from Sherry about her table discussion regarding zoning and land use and planning.
It will be good to have a bigger discussion, because one of our questions was, and I think all of the things that have been said touched into this. We have MOUs with now that are being developed, and we don't know enough about them to know when they were being developed. Did the one with the city of Tampa and the one with Hillsborough County, did they look alike? Were there things that completely lined up, rather than us going into this situation already, even us, we asked for these MOUs to be developed and we're agreeing with them. Are we making sure that what city of Tampa says for signage is exactly what Hillsborough County will do, the same thing? And we talked about how, yes, in Temple Terrace, signage is very strict. And so how do we make sure that when we have an overlay, do we not, we still have to align with whatever the neighbors, the Hillsborough County, Tampa, and Temple Terrace, what we can't make it less, much less. And of course, we would just want it to be consistent, So, the other issue is, it sounds like, the zoning, we're going to have other partners to play with, because if you want to do, let's say, we talked about landscaping in particular, a major push to do landscaping, there's two big prongs of that, right? After you get past, you have to deal with DOT, Hillsborough County, Tampa, Temple Terrace. So you've got all these issues to deal with, and the streets, and it's once you pay for it to put it in, who's going to maintain it? And maybe that's a way to get the community involved. Maybe we have groups adopt a street or adopt an island or whatever. I've seen that in other cities, and I know in Temple Terrace we have two specific areas that have been adopted by groups, and they completely maintain the landscaping. The city provides the water, and they do all the work. I'm talking about everything from pulling weeds to, mowing with trimmers or what have you. So I think, and I will tell you who my brain trust happened to be here today. We've got Alan Denham, Christian Leon, Vicky Shacher. I always say your name wrong, Vicky, sorry. David Green, and Lisa Monteleone keeps popping in back and forth from the BOCC meeting. So it sounds like all of us are headed in the right direction. I love it's funny how even though we're all at different tables, but I also have to tell you that, and I'm an old white lady, okay, who born and raised here in Hillsborough County. Every time I come to one of these meetings, I hear something that makes me say, I didn't know. Okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't know. When you look back and you look at as Jerry said, our area was redlined. Well, no wonder we didn't make any progress for years. How did we not know? Of course, I was just a mom raising little kids. So, but still, I'm not that mom raising little kids now. I am, what is the phrase? Woke. So get ready, folks. That's all I have to say. That's my moment.
Great. Okay, we'll wrap up the survey data, and then we'll go back to the tables and discuss one more aspect of it, and then we'll try that suggestion of bringing everybody up on stage. Let me share my screen again so we can look at that. So this the last survey question really was incorporated a bunch of things. We listed of factors that things that we've heard from stakeholders and from the community, and kind of asked, how important do you think they are as far as effect on the Fowler corridors, property and businesses. The first one, again, and when you're looking at this, you can click in the little square on the upper right-hand corner of that slide to make it larger so you can see it. The first question was, how much does better crime prevention have an effect? And just about every respondent strongly agreed or agreed. Had a couple of not sure and disagreed. Then the second question, how much does better vehicular traffic flow and safety matter? This one, we're just talking about the way we handle cars through Fowler Corridor. And again, pretty strong agreement that that's a big factor. And that came up earlier in the discussion in the first question, I think. Then what about safer and more comfortable conditions for pedestrians and cyclists? This part of the county has lower car ownership than other parts of the county. A lot of people are walking and biking on Fowler Avenue to get to their jobs. So most people very strongly agree that that's an important factor. And what about more attractive physical appearances of buildings and signage? And that gets us into the last question we discussed. And as you can see, most people strongly agreed that that's a big factor. Better public transportation options and services. This one was spread out a little bit more, but still some pretty uniform agreement. What about more affordable housing options in the area? And we see a little bit more of a spread there, but still about, I think, two-thirds or three-quarters of the people strongly agreed that that's an important factor. And then to visible branding of the corridor, and this has come up a couple of times. I know Roland's table talked about it a lot. Branding the corridor as a gateway to innovation, and that one had also pretty strong universal agreement that it's important. And then what about more public spaces for events to bring the community together and draw visitors to the area? I think someone mentioned pocket parks, things of that nature that would allow people in the community to come together. I know that's an important factor. A lot of our anchor institutions at Tampa IP are doing great work, and part of our job is to help connect those dots and help the community plug into that. So that's an important aspect of that, is to have those public spaces. So for this last discussion, let me make sure that we're seeing each other again. We're gonna go back and just kind of talk about those factors that we just mentioned. You know, what of those things really stand out to the people at your table, and you know, do you have any ideas of things we could do to address that? And then when we, you know, let's go 10 minutes on that one, if you have time to stay that long, and then we'll try to bring everybody back on stage, and you know, we'll start with our captains, and then anybody who else wants to talk to everybody can do that. So let's do that.